Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sounds Like Sam. I'm your host Sam. Thanks for tuning in. Today I have a little conspiracy theory I wanted to rant about. I was just super shocked at the free agency in the NFL this past week. I just felt like I had to talk about it. In particular, I wanted to talk about the interesting saga with Cooper Kupp and the Rams' divergence from him, and then bringing on Davante Adams to the team. I think this was probably one of the biggest free agency stories out there, and I feel like there isn't much conversation about like why they're moving on from Kupp. I can obviously see why they would want to bring on Davante Adams because he's an awesome player, and he showed that at least at the end of the year he was able to really kind of reconnect with Rodgers and just be a phenomenal wide receiver again. And I think he'll do well with Stafford, but the fact that they moved off of Cooper Kupp when they've had him for 8 years, I see it from the business standpoint, from the perspective of, okay, he's an older player, and we want to move on because, you're old, and we feel like we're not seeing enough from you, or something like that. I'm just going to pull up a quick age comparison. Cooper Kupp age, he's 31 years old. Davante Adams is 32 years old. So, to me, like, again, obviously, I like Davante Adams, and I think he is probably worth that money that they paid him, which was $44 million for 2 years. But to not give Kupp what he was asking for, and to just completely blow him off for $15 million a year, I think is strange. And then to bring on a guy like Tutu Atwell, who's been on the team, who's done okay. Like, he had 42 receptions, 500 yards, no touchdowns, but they award him a one-year, $10 million contract. Okay, great. But to not give that, to Kupp, makes absolutely no sense. I think they easily could have found a way to do that. Especially because, look, Davante Adams and Kupp, they're both great receivers. But Kupp was their guy. He's literally the reason, the Rams won the Super Bowl back in 2021. I know because I was at the Super Bowl. I watched the game. I was there during the third quarter when they couldn't get anything going. I was there when it was the fourth quarter and still nobody was making any progress after Odell Beckham went down in the second quarter or whatever. They just weren't generating any offense. When Cooper Kupp had the ball and they threw it to him literally every play for the last 8 minutes of the game, he won them the game. He was the reason they won the game. They could not cover him. And he won the Triple Crown that year in the regular season too. And then this past year, it's not like he did horrible. He had 60 receptions for over 600 yards, and he had 6 touchdowns. But he was also out for 6 games. He was out a good portion of the early season. Now, maybe that's the reason why they were getting rid of him, was because he's injury prone. Well, Puka was out for 8 weeks, if not 10. And obviously he's only that was only his second year in the league, and he's an awesome player. But I think Cooper Kupp still had a lot left. He had a lot left in the tank. But at the end of the season, Matthew Stafford wasn't targeting him at all. The last 4 games, except the Philadelphia game, in the playoffs, the one that they lost 27-22, he had 5 receptions in that game on 7 targets. He did okay in that one. They were targeting him in that one. But there was no excuse for why they weren't targeting him enough in the other games. His last 3 regular season games, he was only given 9 targets across those 3 games, and he only had 5 receptions for, I don't even think it was 100 yards. 53 yards in the last 3 games. First round playoff game, only had 1 target, had 1 reception for 29 yards. So I think he has stuff in the tank. They just weren't going to him. Now, I don't know if there was something between him and the coaching. Maybe he was getting mad at them, or they were mad at him for something, or even Matthew Stafford. Why was he not targeting him more? They had obviously been throwing to him more at the beginning of the season. Like during his, he had 100 targets during during the season. Uh, even in the first game of the season, he had 21 targets. Like the only 3 games he had 3 targets or less when he was actually healthy and playing was the last 3 games of the season. There was obviously some type of disconnect at the end of the season between him and Stafford. Stafford wasn't throwing him the ball, obviously. 9 targets over 3 games. It's horrible for like one of your best weapons. Like, was there some conflict between him and Stafford? Is that why? Did Stafford tell the Rams that he didn't want Kupp anymore? Like, that seems to me like that might have been the reason. Because I don't know if you remember, but like Matthew Stafford's wife was like upset when the Rams like announced that they weren't going to pursue Kupp any longer. And that was like, I mean, they even tried trading him at the end of the year. So I think there were some tensions maybe with that. But the fact that we really didn't hear much from Matthew Stafford kind of has me questioning, like, did something in their relationship kind of diverge? Not, I haven't actually done any research on that. I'm actually looking at that right now.
The like decision of whether he's going to be back. One of the best receivers in the league still. Yeah. Have you talked to him about possibly coming back this year for to LA or what?
Yeah, I mean, like I ran into him right kind of when they told him the news that they're talking about trading him, and obviously that one is tough, especially for a guy that's meant so much to me in my career and how he helped me get in with the Rams. I've spent probably more time with him as a teammate than really any other teammate in my career, and that just kind of happened organically. I would go in there early, and sure enough, Cooper would be in there, or he'd walk in, as I'm walking in, and we start watching tape together, and then it just turned into a thing that we just did every day. And so I spent a ton of time with him. He's meant a ton to me as a player, but even more probably as a person. He's a fantastic player. He means a ton to our team, but just as a human being, as a person, he's as good as it gets. I love Cooper and would love opportunity to continue to play with him, or if he's somewhere else. I mean, whoever gets him, it's going to be, he's a fantastic person for the locker room, for the team, and shoot, when he's healthy, he's still balling. Hell yeah.
Okay, so that kind of told me what I wanted to hear. Because I don't know, I feel like I didn't hear anything from him, and that makes it sound like it wasn't Matthew Stafford, and his decision. But I don't know. I just feel like the targets that he had during uh, those last 3 regular season games, and then that Vikings game, it doesn't really reflect that. And I get it, like Puka is going off. He's a great young player. But to me, that it just seems something like fishy was going on. That like, why would they not give Cooper Kupp like a 1 year deal and bring him and try to bring him back? It just felt like they didn't make any effort. They didn't want him back. They wanted to trade him in the middle of the season. So I'm just a little bit shocked that they didn't try anything. And I'm pretty sure they were like all teams are given like an extra. I don't know what it was. It was like $20 million in cap space to work with. Like, why couldn't they have just given him an extra 10 or like to stay for 1 more year? Because imagine that trio of having Kupp, Adams, Puka. Like, that would have been an insane wide receiver room. But obviously, he's moving on. He's going to the Seattle Seahawks. It'll be an interesting place for him. I think that it's a really smart move for the Seattle Seahawks to bring him on, especially when they have a new guy like Sam Darnold, who had a lot of success at the Vikings. So I think he's going to teach him a lot there. And that should be a nice place for Cooper, especially going back to his home state of Washington. But I just felt like that was a weird, like it was just like dramatic in the way that they did it, where people made it dramatic. I don't know. I feel like they definitely could have had him another year, and I feel like they botched that. As for Adams and Nakua, I think They are probably the best wide receiver room in the NFL at this moment. Looking forward to seeing what they can do. It'll be interesting to see like the dynamic, but I feel like both of them are going to have outrageous years. If anything, though, I'd almost still rather have Nakua if I'm like a fantasy manager. I know everybody's probably targeting Devontae Adams. Like I wouldn't have actually. I wouldn't mind having both. Like if you could go, I don't know where Adams is going to be, but if he's going to be like second round and Puka's second round, maybe you could try to do like a late first for Adams, early second for Puka. I feel like you'd still have a pretty good fantasy wide receiver duo. And it's like, yeah, you'd have to have both of them on the same buy, but like to have that duo for a year, I think that you could have a lot of success. But I wouldn't be surprised if Nakua outperforms Devontae Adams the first year on the team. I think that's going to be fun. I think Cooper Kupp on the Seahawks will be fun. But yeah, I just wanted to rant about that for a minute, and I appreciate you listening. So if you haven't already, go subscribe. Sounds like Sam. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.